Hi, everybody. It's Christina Quick from Psychic Hotline School and the Profitable Psychic. I am the author of the Psychic Hotline Handbook. Welcome to today's video. Today, I wanted to explore a little bit about whether the psychic hotlines are still a relevant and profitable work from home opportunity in 2025 and 2026. Kind of talk about what has been going on in the industry over the last about maybe 7 years or so, because I do feel that it's like relevant to understanding the opportunity of the work from home psychic career as it stands today. So, depending on how you end up finding your way to the psychic hotlines and when can kind of give you a perspective about the psychic hotlines. So, back during the pandemic, the psychic hotlines experienced a sort of boom. It was kind of like a gold rush, right? Everybody was at home looking for an opportunity to work, and psychic hotlines was an answer for a lot of people. On the flip side of that, there was also a lot of people at home, out of work, and looking for insight. It's psychic hotlines and psychic work are kind of like one of those things that there's just certain industries that survive pandemics. There's just, or even depressions, right? So, like, for example, hairdressing. Everybody needs a haircut. Certain like taxes and funeral planning, psychic hotlines, like it's part of that package. So there was an extreme opportunity to make a lot of money during COVID. And if you signed up during COVID and got on there and found it super easy to log in and make money and just, it takes very little effort, that was a like 2 to 3 year sort of bubble within psychic hotlines. Previous to that, it's probably, I would say psychic hotlines went up about somewhere around 40%, right, during COVID. And then before that, it was just what the old timers know it as, just the psychic hotline opportunity, where it's there's quite a bit going on as far as the different types of lines you can work. There, it's a little competitive based on the commissions that you're going to earn and things like that. But the thing that has changed during COVID, so like the last, let's say, 2 years, there has been a really big shift since then. And so what now it feels like is kind of like that original, like pre-pandemic vibe. So if you are an old timer, then you'll know what I mean. If you experienced the psychic hotlines during COVID or during the pandemic, you might have a little bit of an inflated view of what the psychic hotlines are and how easy it is to get in and all that kind of stuff. And that was just because supply and demand, right? So now a lot of those people that worked on the psychic hotlines during the pandemic, they've gone back to work. A lot of the people that were calling the psychic hotlines at that point, asking questions about money, finances, is everything going to be okay type of situations, those people are back to work as well. So the psychic hotlines definitely feel a little bit more of a ghost town. But actually, when you look at the numbers and track the web page visits and the analytics over a period of time, which you can use websites to do that. I use SimilarWeb. There's other ones out there. Some of them cost money, some of them are free, some of them cost money up to um, after a certain point, like, if you have like 10 searches or something for free, something like that, like some kind of limit on that, you can go look at all of this on your own. You don't have to listen to what I'm saying, but just to kind of recap it and what I find is like the most relevant data. So right now, we are at about on the psychic hotlines, about a 20% dip from the pandemic traffic, right? So whether that's people working on the lines, whether that's people who are calling the lines, either which way, just basic traffic. Just think about just general busyness. So there's about a 20% dip right now, and a lot of the psychic hotlines can feel kind of like ghost towns right now. And I'm going to tell you what's actually going on. So, when did this happen? So, I would say within the last 7 years or so, we've seen this sort of monopoly starting to take place within the psychic hotlines. There are specific brands that are have been in the game for a very long time, and they, during the pandemic, were going around buying up other psychic hotlines. And so that can be in and of itself a little bit problematic because, and here's the why, and here's the reasons why. First of all, when you have psychic hotlines that are like these big monster corporations like Ingenio, who owns Keen and Purple Ocean and a whole bunch of other subset Kasamba now, you can look and see like which ones that they own now. What happens is that those individual psychic hotlines are no longer competing for advisors, meaning that back, during the pandemic and before, you would have psychic hotlines offering, like for limited time, a certain commission that you could earn or a higher commission rate than, say, others. Right. And so you would have a little bit more of freedom to choose who's going to be paying higher, what kind of benefits they have. The problem is that when you have these big monster corporations going around and buying up all these little psychic hotlines, then they can set the commissions across the board, which means less companies are competing for you as an advisor. It also means that the hiring process can be stagnant. So if you try to get hired onto one psychic hotline and that's a subsidiary owned by a bigger psychic hotline, then it's possible that you could not get on the other psychic hotlines because you failed that particular interview. So that, in a nutshell, is really what the big problems are right now. That being said, I do feel like the psychic hotlines are starting to feel that advisors are not sticking around long term because the way they make money is by you sticking around long term, getting regulars, raising your price up, 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 up. You get more commissions, they get more commissions, and so their long-term advisors are really their big cash cows, right? They're their cash unicorns. And so when these advisors that have been around in the game for a while are leaving because it's more profitable for them to just open up their own website because, commission rates at this point are kind of stagnant across the board. You're not going to find something more than, say, 60 to 70%. And most places are going to be somewhere between 20 to 40%, which is really sad because that's pretty freaking low compared to what it used to be. So that's kind of what's going on. But what you're feeling is that, remember when I said that, the psychic hotlines are only about 20% down in overall traffic, right? So why are some of them completely dead? Well, here's the problem. So again, these big companies are going around buying all these little companies, and they're not putting the ad revenue into those individual companies that the original owners were putting in. In fact, when I look at similar web, or I track the analytics and see like, okay, what portion of Psychic Hotline's traffic is coming from Google or paid ads, right? Across the board, a lot of them are extraordinarily low. They're not putting the ad money back into um, their website like they were before. New client acquisition is something that is a low priority for them, and there are reasons why. I mean, they're the only ones that are going to know the reasons why, but I could speculate, and I think it's because someone, one of these bigger companies, went around and bought all these smaller psychic hotlines and blew a lot of their profit, and so now I think it's possible that they simply just don't have the ad budget that they used to. Because when I look at the ad budget on a lot of these websites, it's appalling. And you can actually test this for yourself. You can go on certain psychic hotlines and you can look on their social media, and there's ad transparency. So you can see which ones are, in fact, running ads. And then you can go to Google and you can type in that psychic hotline to the Google search engine. And then you can see how long do you have to scroll until you find it. So if it's not towards the top, like that specific psychic hotline you're looking for is not towards the top, then they're not putting money into Google Ads, right? So that's the problems. These are the big problems in 2025, 2026. My speculation, my prediction is going to be a lot of these smaller lines. They're just gonna basically take the client base and then they're just gonna merge it into some of these bigger ones. So don't be surprised if some of these smaller lines who get bought up by the bigger lines end up disappearing over the next year or so. So that's why I recommend really just focusing on the bigger lines for right now. And you can find a list of all of that in our Discord channel. There's a link below where you can join us and get access to like that in the analytics and stuff like that. I can show you where I get that information and all that kind of stuff. But is the psychic hotline still relevant in 2025, 2026 as an opportunity to make up, upwards of, um, you know, five, $10,000 a month if you put in the hours. If you put in 30 hours a week, you're going to do it easily. It's kind of a no-brainer. As long as you show up, it will happen for you, but you have to choose the right line. And choosing the right line, I think, right now, is going to be more important than ever. So if you're on a smaller line, you might want to consider thinking about at least applying to some of the bigger ones and just having that as a backup because that's kind of what I foresee. But yes, the psychic hotlines are still a relevant and profitable work from home opportunity, and a lot of it is because old timers are gone, and so now, even though the customer base is a little quieter, there's opportunity for you to build up a reputation and to build up regulars, and that's going to be your ticket to actually making the psychic hotlines profitable is focusing on your regulars. So I hope this helps you decide whether the psychic hotlines are worth getting into still. My vote is yes. I do think it is. I think it's yes, a little bit quieter. I do think there are some issues in the industry, but I don't feel like the psychic hotlines are going anywhere. And I don't feel like that they're in a downward spiral or they're going to a negative place. I can just foresee that there's going to probably be a little bit of consolidation and being mindful about which psychic hotline you choose to invest your time and build yourself up on is going to be the most important thing. I'll see you in the next video.